Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! Okay, so it finally happened today. Last spring, my family finally moved into our dream home. We bought the property years ago, and through the pandemic, finally we were able to get our dream home built. The property is essentially in the middle of nowhere, with the nearest neighbor being about a mile down the road. On the few hundred acres we have, I decided to do my best at recreating some professional drift tracks from Dream Masters European Championship, and also Formula Drift. We were able to create one-on-one models of all NJ, Riga, Irwindale, California, Texas, Poland, Seattle, Englishtown, NJ. Everything is up to code and green-lined by the county. We plan to open a drift school on the property in the future. We've also built 6 cars to 800 horsepower, primarily using 5.3-liter Chevy V8s. The cars are an E36 BMW, E46 BMW, 96 Silvia, 13 BRZ, 15 Mustang, and a 16 MX-5. I list all of this because it's loud and smoky here on the farm a lot, and for the past 7 or 8 months we've had absolutely no issues, minus a trespasser destroying his car and our shed. Today that changed. I have some family in town for the holiday, and among them are my cousin, male 39, and his son 17. Having grown up drifting with my cousin was super hyped to take his boy out and slide around the track, so we grabbed a couple of the track cars and cut loose. About 40 minutes into it, and as we were swapping out tires, I heard sirens and stepped out of the garage. Coming down my driveway are 2 fire engines and a couple of police cars and an SUV. They all park and hop out, and I ask how I can help them. They ask about a fire alarm with noise, to which I explain the drift cars in motion to all of the racetrack around the property. Show them my county documents which allow for the tracks and so on. At this point, my apparent neighbor, male in his 50s, that I have never met, starts yelling about the noise and how I should be arrested. The sergeant who had shown up with a gaggle of responders stopped him and informed him that we aren't doing anything illegal. And so long as we keep our noise to before 10 p.m. on weekdays and 11 p.m. on weekends, we are within the law. Neighbor calls us a bunch of jerks before turning and cussing out the sergeant. We specifically chose this property to build on as it's zoned commercial and automotive, on top of residential. The fire department left almost as soon as they arrived. After the neighbor had his meltdown, he was trespassed by PD. A couple of the police hung around and watched us hit a few laps. I offered to take them out and even teach them if they would like, free of charge, then they left too. Update. The neighbor just came back to knock on my door and tell me that we will no longer be racing cars on our property, threatened to destroy the vehicles, and was all but foaming at the mouth. The police came, he was actually the one who called him, and they ended up arresting him for trespassing after they got the whole story from me. I was reminded of this crazy psycho Karen a few hours ago, while reading about a person who used German to communicate with a crazy Karen. This event happened maybe 15 or so years ago, but many of the events are still very clear in my mind. Not because of how traumatic it was, but mostly due to the fact I had to play it out to the bitter end. It took a lot of self-control and discipline to keep up the ruse, but the end result still makes me laugh to this day. I will admit, this was not one of my finer moments in my lifetime, but I still see it as a learning event for everyone involved. I'm fairly good at sign language. I really learned it while doing a summer school/computer camp for some deaf and blind children. I took a course before the class so I could learn the basics aside from the normal alphabet. By the end of the summer, I had become very good at signing and understanding whole conversations and could communicate very well with my students. I personally think I learned way more from them than they learned from me, but that is a story for the wholesome side of Reddit. It all happened while I was at Kmart. I was there looking for a specific item. I don't really recall exactly what it was at the time. It's really not important to the story. I was putting some things back on a shelf that I had moved when I heard ahem. That sound someone makes to clear their throat. I just ignored it. I recall just not wanting to deal with people that day. So someone trying to get my attention was not at the top of my list. The noise was made again, only louder this time, and more determined. Ahem! I continued to ignore it. Excuse me? I still don't respond. I can hear the foot tapping, so I, having completed what I was doing, start to move away. It was at this time she grabbed my arm. She pulls my arm to turn me around to face her. Excuse me, I'm talking to you. Me, with a startled expression, let out a quick yelp and sign. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. What are you doing? I'm trying to talk to you. Do you know how rude you are? Me signing. I'm sorry, I'm deaf and did not hear you. But you have no right to grab me. Please leave me alone. What are you doing? Stop waving your hand around. Are you doing gang signs to intimidate me? Stop it right now. At this point, her yelling has drawn the attention of several customers as well as the store manager. Some of the nice people around started telling her, I'm sorry ma'am, but I don't think he can hear you. He's trying to use sign language. Then the store manager arrives. Ma'am, could you please come over here and leave him alone? No, he's flashing gang signs to try to intimidate me. Call the police. He's in a gang. I want cops here right now. She grabs onto my arm and will now not let go. I'll tell ya, this woman had a grip. Not even my mother had a grip like this woman. And my mother was a farm girl. She grabbed and held on so tight, her fingernails actually dug into my arm and left some good bruises. She would not let go and continued to demand the police. The customers and the manager are all trying to get her to let go. She just wouldn't let me out of her grip. This went on for several minutes of me trying to pull away, her screaming, and other customers trying to separate us. I can only figure someone called the cops. I don't know how long it was, it seemed like a while, but it could have been a few minutes. When you have a crazy Karen tearing your arm up, the passing of time seems to take longer. 3 officers show up, thankfully. The police officer tells her, let him go, stop screaming and settle down. I want him arrested. He was flashing gang signs and intimidating me. He was threatening me. Me moving away from the area as quickly as possible. The manager standing between me and the Karen. A couple of minutes passed by. They had to put her in cuffs before she actually started to talk with them in a coherent manner. When things started to settle down, one of the officers came over to me and asked what was going on. I should have come clean at this moment, but I couldn't give up on this. I'm pretty much committed to the whole deaf thing now. If I'm anything, I'm not a quitter. I started signing to the officer, who then realized I was deaf. He pulled out his notepad and pen and then gestures to write what happened. Me writing, I was shopping, and this lady grabbed my arm and spun me around. I tried to tell her I can't hear, she then grabbed me harder and started screaming. Everyone was trying to help, but she wouldn't let go. I just wanna go home. She's crazy, she really hurt my arm. I point out my arm, at which point the officer sees the gouge marks and the bruising starting to show up. He then walks me over to the Karen. Hey, do you see this? Do you see how bad you hurt him? He has no idea why you were grabbing him. He can't hear. He's deaf. He was signing to you. What kind of person are you? The look on her face was totally worth the pain and suffering. She then started babbling. Well, I didn't know. How am I supposed to know sign language? All he had to do was talk to me. It's not my fault. They should have people to help them. They escorted her out to the patrol car and closed the door. They take my statement and several other statements from the other people in the store and the store manager. And they ask for video footage if available. I'm told I can head home. I get in my car and start laughing as I drive away, knowing I'm a complete jerk and that I likely destroyed someone's life. The aftermath. She was charged with assault and creating a public disturbance. From the statements, the video footage, the pictures of my bruised arm, her lawyers ended up pleading down to assault and working out no jail time and a $1,600 fine and 450 hours of community service. I was sent a notice from the court about the plea deal. In my state, if a disabled person is attacked, they must notify and inform. I also have the option to say if it's acceptable or if I feel the deal is not fair. This is used to help the judge make a more informed decision. As I didn't want to take my chances of sitting in a courtroom, I signed a paper and returned it to the court. Yes, I know this whole situation looks bad, and at the time I was in my early 20s, so I didn't really care or think much about it. At the time, I just wanted to teach her a lesson about how to treat people. I know now how much of a jerk I was for pulling something like this, but I still can't feel that if it weren't not me. What if it was one of my students, or some other deaf person who she attacked? That's ultimately what mattered to me at the time, but I realized it wasn't the right way to deal with the situation. Like I mentioned in my other story, Karen has a bit of a criminal record. It started with smaller charges such as disorderly conduct or resisting arrest, some of which landed her in jail for a bit, and she often did things you would expect of a Karen. You know, like getting into arguments with neighbors for trivial reasons or calling the cops for no reason. However, later on, she did some more dangerous crimes like DUI or reckless driving. One time, she got into an accident because she was texting and driving while her 6-month-old grandson was in a car. Not sure exactly how long this landed her in jail, but when she got back, things had changed. While Karen was in jail, her husband was trying to get them to file for divorce. He was a pretty nice guy and was mostly tolerable towards her crazy actions. But her putting their grandson in danger was the final straw. Not really sure how divorces work, but it seemed like things were final because the husband had gotten a new girlfriend, Anna. As one can imagine, Karen lost it when she learned of this. This happened on the 4th of July last year. My family was sitting on our back deck eating ice cream and talking. It was almost dark, so we were waiting for the fireworks to start. And that's when we heard Karen storm out of the house screaming, "Anna, you stupid jerk!" We heard her yell. It was so loud that it took me by shock. Following her was a husband and Anna. I wouldn't say that we were eavesdropping on them, more like we were curious. From our deck, we had a perfect view of what was about to happen. Karen is screaming at the top of her lungs about how she couldn't believe he was leaving her and how he's a terrible person for leaving her to fend for herself. Karen is currently unemployed since she had just came out of jail and she also had no family living nearby. So she's basically on her own without her husband. The husband tries his best to calm her down and tells her that he's given her so many chances, but she keeps messing up, and that he's had enough of her going in and out of jails. He says that they should move on since it's clearly not working. And this only angers Karen more. This time her screaming is directed at Anna. Karen goes on to call her a bunch of insulting names and tries attacking her. But the husband blocks her, and Karen then grabs a key from her pocket and pops a tire on Anna's car. She then starts kicking and punching the car, leaving a few dents. It took the combined effort of Anna, the husband, and their daughter to stop her, and even then they could barely hold her down. My dad called the police a while ago, and they are now showing up. One of them tries to calm her down, but she just attacks him. I'm pretty sure he tased her. After Karen was contained, they started interviewing the husband, Anna, and my parents. This was her final defeat, and I'm glad she finally got what she deserved. I'm friends with the daughter, and a few months later I asked what happened to Karen. She told me that she got put in jail again. Big surprise, and the divorce was finalized. Once she got out, she lost custody of her. The husband was nice enough to not make her pay for Anna's car repairs because she was already broke. She had to beg her older son, who is 28, to let her stay at his house until she could afford her own place. Mind you, it was his child that she got injured in a car accident. If I were him, I would have shut the door in her face and never looked back. But he's a lot nicer than I will be to her, and he let her stay. Karen's ex-husband and Anna continue to live next to us, and things have been a lot more peaceful. I'm really not missing getting yelled at by her for something stupid. The two of them are actually getting married next month, a small wedding at their house. I would like to see the look on her face when she learned that the same woman that she had insulted was marrying her ex-husband. This happened a few years ago, but another post reminded me of this story. I worked at a coffee shop in a pretty popular city for tourists. It was very busy. Lined out the door all day due to the holiday season. We sold out all the pastries and baked goods. So I decided to restock pastries while my other coworker took orders and made coffees. Small coffee shop, only 2 people worked during a shift on most days. As I'm restocking and clearly not at the register, not even behind the counter, I'm approached by a woman with a bottle of kombucha. She asks, "Can I give you the money for this and just go?" "Ma'am, I'm sorry, I can't help you at the moment. I am not at the register and currently in the middle of restocking." "Why can't you just take the money?" "Ma'am, it's the property of the store. It's very busy and the money might get lost if I don't ring it up. I'm not currently at the register, and if you ask my coworker, I'm sure she will be happy to help you." "I don't want to wait in line. This is ridiculous." "Ma'am, there are a lot of people waiting in line. Some of them are only getting a bottle of water. It wouldn't be fair to them if I took money from you and made them wait for their turn." "This is stupid. I'm not waiting. You're a coffee shop, not a bakery." She put the bottle back and she left. I didn't think anything of it at all because it was very busy and I had to get back to helping out with orders for other customers. The next day, my manager asked me about this. The entitled woman left a nasty review online saying that a barista that lacks all empathy and is void of humanity refused to sell her kombucha because she's R-worded and is only capable of putting out pastries. My manager was chill and just wanted to know what really happened. I explained and said we were busy, and the entitled woman was trying to cut in front of everyone to get a bottle of kombucha. The manager responded to her review in a polite but stern manner, saying she's sorry for the inconvenience, but there are rules and I'm allowed to refuse service. Karen, of course, did not like the response and kept replying back with more screaming and nonsense, but the manager just ignored her, and I luckily didn't encounter this Karen again. Bonus: I stalked this petty entitled woman because I was curious and she left a lot of bad reviews of random places. Some highlights include a bad review of an airport for being too busy, and a bad review of an ATM because the manager of the bank took the closest parking space and she didn't like walking through a parking lot. Some people are just so weird. Thank you for watching and see you next time.